class! I'm so excited to be back with you guys to continue learning about music. Today's lesson is super exciting and it's going to lead us into many other lessons we're going to talk about. So for this chapter of our learning experience, we're going to be talking about musical eras. Now we're not going to go in order, so today's first one isn't necessarily the first one that happened, but throughout these next few sessions we're going to discuss all of them and you'll be able to understand the whole timeline. So do you guys know what a musical era is to begin with?
Yeah, a time period.
Good! It's a time period. So it's a certain part of the timeline where a specific type of music was focused on, or it was the style. So throughout these weeks, that's what we're going to be focused on. We're going to focus on several different musical eras. And today's lesson is a mixture of a little bit of history, a little bit of music, so I hope you guys get to enjoy that. And there's a lot of information we're going to be discussing, so if you have any questions at any point, feel free to ask them. So today's musical era is super unique, and it is an era known for decorative and ornate music and oratorios. And I have a lecture planned on a PowerPoint for you guys to be able to see what I'm discussing while we do it. So, this one is called the Baroque era. Can you guys say Baroque era?
Baroque era.
Awesome. All right. So this type of music is heavily ornamented, as I said, and it came out of the Renaissance. So the Renaissance happened prior to this musical era, and the Renaissance is just another musical era, but it happened prior to this. And this type of music is a Western art music, and it brought about opera. Do you guys know what opera is?
Yeah, it's
like
singing.
Yeah, singing. So we can look into that more later for you guys to get a better understanding. But I think you guys have heard opera, maybe in a musical or a play or something. This music forms a major portion of the classical music canon. So first we have the Renaissance era, then we have the Baroque music, and then we have the classical. So the classical, it fits in with the classical very well. This music gets the name from a Portuguese word. The Portuguese word means broken pearl, and that's ornamented or exaggerated. This music is also heavily instrumental. Do you guys know what instruments are?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you guys play instruments. You're in 4th grade, you know that. And it expanded the size, range, and complexity of instrumental performances. And it also established the mixed vocal instrumental forms of many musical genres. And continuing on, it focused on the upper and lower tones. It layered melodies and it increased the orchestra size. So that goes all into the instrumental, that instruments played a big part in how this music ended up sounding. And so it was also a part of different vocal and instrumental genres. So we've already got a lot of information. If you guys have questions, feel free to ask. So going back to decorative and ornate music, I don't know if you guys know much about it, but it's characterized by long flowing melodic lines using ornamentation. So there's decorative notes, trills and turns. So as for this time period, since a musical era is part of a certain time period, this one happened from 1600 until 1750. So that's quite a while ago, huh? So like I said, it followed the Renaissance and it predated the classical era. So those three all happen within each other and they're all very similar, but they also have unique qualities and characteristics to them. And although it says it ended in 1750, it regained popularity in the 1800s and it's been played ever since. And a lot of people still enjoy this music today. Life during this time period was based off of one's class. So for class examples, nobility's at the highest. So if we have a ranking, nobility's up here, and then gentry, and then land-owning farmers, and then craftsmen and laborers down here. And that's just kind of a big part of what that time period had. It was all about social class. So some of the main instruments, since this is a very instrumental type of music, I want to just give you a picture of this one, which is the piano forte, and it's a precursor to the modern piano. And so it looks pretty similar to any piano we see today. And then some of the main string instruments we know of, or that are from this music, are violins, violas, cellos, and lutes. And so those ones they all have strings on them, right? And then woodwinds, they use recorders or flutes. Guys, what music do we make in class? What instrument?
Recorders.
We use recorders to make our music. So they use those also, but they were probably made out of a different material than the plastic ones we use. And they also used oboes and bassoons. And as for brass, they played trumpets or horns. You guys all know what a trumpet is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those are super cool. And then a timpani, and a timpani is a type of drum. And then they also had keyboard, a part of it, as well as many other instruments, but these are the main ones that you guys should know and understand. As for the music and culture, composers were treated like servants in this musical era. They were a big part of society, but they just weren't treated as well as one would have hoped. And music was a staple in most functions, especially the upper class. So those nobility people we were talking about, music was a big part of their life and their social and different activities they do. Musical expression for composers, I don't know what that was supposed to say. So it was a source of entertainment for aristocrats, and it was a way of life for musicians, so that means that they were making their money off of it. And it was an escape from routine life for the general public. So a lot of people just use it, like I said, as entertainment or just a break from whatever's going on in their life. And the music was used to evoke certain moods. So they could be happy, sad, romantic, scary, intense, just any type of emotions. That's what the music was used for. So some of our main composers, I think you guys are going to be familiar with some of them. Composers in this era pioneered new styles. So that just means that they came out with new music, new types. One of them is concerto, and it's a classical music composition that highlights a solo instrument against the background of a full orchestra. So that there's our instrument aspect. And then the sonata, which is a long piece of classical music that's usually made up of several parts, and it can be played by an orchestra or just one instrument, just like a piano is played. So as for our actual composers, there's 3 different places that they usually originated from, one being Italy, one being Germany, and another one being England. So our Italy composers, granted there are more composers in this, but 3 of our main ones are Claudio Monteverdi, and he lived from 1567 to 1643, which was quite a long time ago, but that fits in with our musical era time period of 1600 to 1750. We also have Arcangelo Corelli, who lived from 1653 to 1713, and Antonio Vivaldi from 1678 to 1741. And I actually have a piece of his music pulled up for us to listen to. Okay, so just take a listen and let me know what you think of it. This is called Four Seasons. All right, so for that, did that evoke any emotions?
Yeah, it made me feel happy.
Made you feel happy? Right. So different sounds and everything can make our emotions come out. So those are our 3 composers from Italy. For Germany, we have George Friedrich Handel, and he lived from 1685 to 1759. So this is progressing in our timeline. And we also had Johann Sebastian Bach, who lived from 1685 to 1750, and I also have music ready from Bach. All right. How did box music make you feel?
Good.
Good. You liked them both?
Mm-hmm.
Good. All right. And as for England, we have Henry Purcell, who lived from 1659 to 1695. Wow. So as you can see, the composers all lived around different times, but they all played a big part in this musical era. So the typical audience for this type of music were white people, and they usually were around the age of 20 to 30 years old, and they both male and female people were involved, but usually it was the upper class of the nobility and people who had a bit more money to afford attending these concerts. And musical piece. I have one more just to end this lesson.
Something's afoot.
Just to hear a bunch of different types, not just from the two composers we listened to already. So I'll skip it around so you can hear different music. Just from the Baroque music. All right, so can you think, pair, and share with your desk partner about how that music made you feel, if it was fast or slow, while I get the next thing set up. Awesome discussions, guys. Okay. So for our last activity, since this was a lot of lecture, I want to do something fun for you guys. So I have a musical word search that I emailed all of you guys. It should be on your drive, and it should look like this. And it's all just a bunch of words that we've discussed from this musical era. What musical era were we focusing on?
Baroque.
Baroque music. So, you guys can pull out your laptops and get started on this, and we will go from there. All right, awesome job on that, guys. Did you guys have fun filling out that word search?
Yeah.
Yeah, those were always my favorite to do in school too. So just to wrap up, can somebody tell me a little bit about what they learned from today?
The Baroque music has ornaments and things that make it very unique.
Yes, this is very unique music. But also, all musical eras have very unique characteristics. What were the two other musical eras that we talked about that were before and after this one?
One was classical.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the other one.
So classical came afterwards, and before we had the Renaissance music. All right, good job, everyone. I hope you guys learned a lot.